Ever stand in a gallery, like, totally mesmerized by how detailed a print is?
Uh-huh.
Like, that blend of artistry and precision always gets me thinking about, like, who actually made this?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what's the path to even becoming that good?
Right.
Well, lucky for us today, we are diving deep into the world of printmaking.
Yeah, it's definitely more than just making a pretty picture.
Oh, for sure.
People often don't realize, like, how technical it can get.
Really?
Yeah, we're talking about etching onto metal plates and carving into wood blocks.
Wow.
Some printmakers even work with, like, light-sensitive chemicals to do things like silk screens.
That's wild. I bet they've got some seriously cool tools too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like what?
Okay, so like an etcher circuit processor.
Like an etcher circuit processor.
Yeah, it sounds kind of intimidating,
Yeah.
but it's basically a really high-tech way to get incredibly fine details in etchings.
Wow.
And then there's also the pantograph engraver,
Okay.
which lets you trace an image and then it engraves it super precisely onto another surface. Wow.
It's really fascinating how technology is such a big part of these like traditional art forms.
Totally. It's so cool to see how that creativity and technical skill go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Is that common in other parts of the art world?
Yeah, definitely.
Like what? Think about musicians, for example.
Okay.
They need that creativity to come up with amazing music,
Sure.
but then they also need that technical skill on their instrument to actually make it happen.
Totally.
You see that kind of balance in a lot of artistic fields.
That makes sense. So let's say someone is like super into this and wants to try and make a career out of it.
Yeah.
What's that actually look like? Because our source today is RoleCatcher, and they actually dive into the different stages of a printmaking career.
Right.
What stood out to you from that?
Well, like a lot of art stuff, it's not always easy.
Right.
RoleCatcher talks about how important it is for printmakers to always be learning.
Okay.
It's not enough to just learn the basics.
Yeah.
You have to keep exploring like new techniques and technologies.
To stay relevant.
Exactly.
So even if you're already like a pro printmaker, you still have to keep experimenting.
Oh, yeah.
How does that work?
Well, they might go to workshops that are run by like master printers.
Yeah.
They might experiment with new techniques like etching in their own studios.
Uh-huh.
Or they might even bring in like cutting edge technology.
Seriously?
Like 3D printing.
Whoa, 3D printing for prints.
Yeah.
That's kind of blowing my mind.
Yeah. It's wild.
I mean, that totally changes what you can do.
Absolutely.
That's incredible.
It's really cool.
Okay, but like with all this talk about the art part, I do have to ask like the real question.
Yeah.
Can you actually make a living doing this?
Right.
Like, can you be a printmaker and pay your bills?
Yeah, that's like the big question that I think every artist is thinking about these days.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher actually said that it's definitely possible.
Okay.
It's not always easy, but you can make a good living as a printmaker. They break it down into these stages, like from entry level to senior printmaker.
Okay.
And they all have their own kind of like milestones and challenges along the way.
So like, how does that work? Where do you even start?
So at the very beginning, like entry level, you're probably going to be assisting more experienced printmakers.
Yeah.
Just kind of learning the ropes.
Getting a feel for it.
Exactly.
Nice.
Like you might be prepping materials.
Okay.
Really, it's just about absorbing as much as you can and getting those skills down.
So like an apprenticeship almost.
Exactly. Yeah. And as you get more experience, you become more confident and you move up to like a junior printmaker.
Okay.
And then you can start to take on more independent projects. You might work with other artists, or you might even start to like build your own client base.
Oh, very cool. And how do you stand out in a field like that?
Yeah.
Is it all about the portfolio?
Having a portfolio is super important.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that RoleCatcher really stresses is that you need to be showing off your work, like through exhibitions,
Okay.
which could be, traditional galleries,
Yeah.
or they could even be online.
That makes sense.
A lot of stuff is online these days.
Yeah, for sure.
And networking is also huge.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like any other job, like you got to know people.
Exactly.
All right.
Building relationships with gallery owners and other artists.
Yeah.
And even like potential collectors. That's how you get your work seen.
For sure. But like beyond that, like beyond the art world connections and all of that,
Right.
did RoleCatcher talk about other skills that printmakers have that could be useful?
Yeah, actually, they highlighted some surprisingly transferable skills.
Transferable skills. Transferable skills. Like what kind of stuff are we talking about?
Well, just think about what a printmaker actually does. They
All
need
right.
to be super detail-oriented.
Yeah.
They need to understand visual communication.
Okay.
They need to be good at problem solving to get the image exactly right.
Sure.
All those things are valuable in a ton of industries. They even listed some jobs that printmakers could do that you might not expect.
Really? Like what?
Well, graphic design is like a natural fit.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's also illustration,
Okay.
art restoration,
Oh, wow.
even things like textile design.
That's so cool. It really opens up a lot of options.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to just be an artist,
Right.
but you can use those skills in different ways.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, like, how is printmaking doing these days?
Yeah.
Has the digital age, like, messed things up for printmakers?
It's a big question, and thankfully RoleCatcher actually talks about it.
Yeah.
They said that, yeah, the printing world has been, like, totally changed by technology.
Right.
But, get this, they think that there's still a place for those traditional skills.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Especially for those printmakers who are willing to change and adapt with the times.
That makes me happy to hear. So it's not like a dying art form or anything.
No, it's more like it's finding a new place in the world.
I like that.
Uh,
So what does that look like?
well, mass production, that's probably always going to be digital from now on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's like a growing appreciation these days for things that are handmade and unique.
Right.
Like limited edition prints
Yeah.
or artist books,
Okay.
things that are one of a kind.
Yeah.
That's what collectors really want.
Makes sense.
And that's where those old printmaking skills are really important.
Totally. Like, there's something so cool about a print that you know someone made by hand.
Yeah.
You can't get that from a computer.
Exactly. It's the story.
Yes.
It's knowing how it was made.
It's the human touch.
Exactly.
In this world that's like all about technology, those things really stand out.
Yeah, for sure.
This deep dive has been awesome.
It really shows you how art and technology can work together,
Right.
even though they seem like opposites.
We've learned so much about the techniques and what it takes to be a printmaker and the challenges they face.
Yeah, and the opportunities, too.
Yes.
Don't forget about those.
So much to think about.
It makes you wonder how you think technology is going to affect art in the future.
That's a great question.
Is it good or bad?
Or maybe both.
Exactly. So it's something to ponder the next time you see a piece of art that really speaks to you.
I love it. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of printmaking.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time.